news out of Cleveland this week. Deshaun Watson has injured and re-injured his Achilles. He underwent a second surgery on Thursday, and according to Adam Schefter, now this puts his 2025 season in jeopardy. So, Dan, Cleveland now picks second overall in the draft. Do they have to take a quarterback in your estimation?
No, they don't have to in the draft, but I do know this. There's $63 million in the red for next year's cap. So you're not replacing the quarterback position with something expensive. You have to find it in a cheap manner. The only two assets that are worth a lot that the Cleveland Browns have are the number 2 pick and Myles Garrett. And I entertain the idea, and I think they will at some point have to entertain calling the Minnesota Vikings, maybe if they don't like somebody in the draft, and saying, are you willing to part with J.J. McCarthy because he's cheap? It depends on if they liked him coming out of college last year, and having a conversation around Myles Garrett and or that number 2 draft pick.
Wow, there's a whole lot of there. Very interesting, and we have a while to talk about it. But
it's the situation they're in.
What a situation. Only 19 games for Watson since being traded there, and hasn't played well in those. All right, we're just getting started on NFL Live. Jalen Hurts is set to return for the Eagles on Sunday, but find out why somebody here thinks this game is going to come down to those running backs. And Lamar Jackson and the Ravens will be without Zay Flowers this weekend. We've got some ideas on how Baltimore could overcome the loss of their top wideout. Don't want to miss it. At the Texans tomorrow afternoon. Quarterbacks Justin Herbert and C.J. Stroud perform very differently when they face better competition this season. So against teams that finished with a winning record, Justin Herbert threw for 10 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions, 4th best ratio in the NFL. But what about C.J. Stroud? Really struggling against better competition, throwing 3 more interceptions than touchdown, finishing with a 40 QBR, each of those ranking bottom 5 in the NFL. So, Dan the man, how do you anticipate that this Chargers defense is going to make life difficult for the second-year quarterback?
They'll lie to everybody on the offense. They'll show you one thing, and then it's really another thing. And so often we talk about it as, you know, it only impacts the pass game. I think one thing that this defense in L.A. does with Jesse Minter is there's late rotation. So a lot of times you get to line of scrimmage as an offense and you think, oh, I could run the football because there's going to be 2 safeties, or I could run to a weakness. And then all of a sudden that rotation happens late and we're down a body as an offense. And I'm like, dang, we missed that one. I think the second thing is they're really good at understanding or predicting when you are going to run the football, and they get into their run blitzes where people are slanting or moving at angles and they create advantage for themselves. And RC knows this. Their disguises are absolutely diabolical. And so if you are in those obvious passing situations, you're so often as a quarterback and as an offense just guessing of who's coming from where, what's the coverage, and where's the vacancy. And that is a huge opportunity for this defense, and it stinks for an offense that doesn't protect well.
And that's what's extremely scary if you're C.J. Stroud, DeMeco Ryans, Bobby Slowick, is that you've had trouble with these teams that can bring pressure but also disguise their looks, man. I think back to watching Green Bay early on this season and how effective those tackle stunts are, or adding a backer to a 4-man rush. And this truly started a little bit against the Baltimore Ravens in the playoffs last year. And so some sort of way, you're going to have to get the football out of C.J. Stroud's hands early, those quick screens, opportunities for Joe Mixon in the pass game, because if you can't do that, if you get behind the sticks with Mentor's defense, the defense coordinator of the Los Angeles Chargers, you're in trouble. And the way that they use Derwin James as sort of that chess piece in those disguises and in those rushes is going to be huge for C.J. Stroud to navigate and pick up pre-snap.
Mina, let's go to the other side. What do you expect Greg Roman's game plan to look like for Herbert and company?
Well, first of all, I do think Herbert can and will push the ball downfield the way he has this season to Ladd McConkey. But I also wouldn't be surprised if Greg Roman leans a little bit on what his old team, Baltimore, did against the Texans and goes particularly with regards to the ground game. So the Texans have an excellent run defense, but I thought Baltimore did a really good job of taking advantage of their aggression on the defensive line with some of those trap and wham runs that I think we'll also see from Roman. And then what you see here, Herbert as a runner. So Lamar ran for over 100 yards, right, on Houston. And you can look at that and say, well, that's Lamar Jackson. But the Texans have statistically been one of the worst defenses in the NFL against rushing quarterbacks all year long, allowing the most yards per carry of any defense. Meanwhile, Justin Herbert this year has the most carries of his entire career. So don't be surprised if we see some designed runs for Justin Herbert baked into this game plan, because it's been something that Houston has struggled to defend.
Yeah, meanwhile, Herbert, he only has 3 picks all season. How about that? Very, very impressive.
Playing awesome.
Yep. All right, we have 6 picks across the show today. Let's see who we got. Ooh, RC is on the Texans. I feel bad that I'm not. It's the first time I'm picking against him.
Hometown.
But RC, what do you know that we don't?
I actually don't know anything. Like, this is purely a guess. This is off of emotion, and it's not one of those like Marcus things where I just didn't want to pick a score and I was being a contrarian the entire show. You know, I feel like at some point a team has to dig deep. At some point a team has to have some understanding that you got to be a dog and step up, make plays, protect your quarterback. And defensively, a guy like Derek Stingley has to show us why he's one of the best ball guys in all of football, along with Kalen Bullock.
And you are on your home field. It's been somewhat of a disappointing season, so we will see. All right, some top stories to get to now, and we start with the NFL making the decision to move Monday's Vikings-Rams game out of SoFi Stadium as a result of the devastating wildfires still raging in Southern California. That game will now be played on Monday night in Glendale, Arizona at State Farm Stadium, host of the Cardinals. The league saying that this decision was made in consultation with public officials, the teams, and the NFLPA. Meanwhile, the Lions are on a bye week, and their 2 coordinators are very busy. 4 interviews for OC Ben Johnson in the next 48 hours with the Patriots, Raiders, Bears, and Jags. Meanwhile, DC Aaron Glennie has 5 interviews this week. Jets, Saints, Raiders, Jags, Bears, and all the while, both these guys, of course, try to get...
And it's a good one. Saturday, Steelers and Ravens. And we have reporters with both teams here on SportsCenter. Jamison Hensley screen right with the Ravens and Brooke Pryor with the Steelers. Brooke, we're starting with you. Steelers certainly have their hands full with Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. How do they plan to contain this explosive Baltimore offense?
Well, Randy, this is a BYONR game. That means bring your own neck roll, because it's going to be physical. They're going to be hitting, and they're going to be hitting early, at least if they want any prayer of stopping Derrick Henry, who, by the way, had 100 more rushing yards in the second game against the Ravens than he did the first time around. That might be in part because TJ Watt was limited. He had hurt his ankle the week before in Philadelphia. And they didn't have Deshaun Elliott, who is the team's leading tackler. You don't have to tell Deshaun Elliott to bring his own neck roll, because Joey Porter Jr. said that is a guy who wants to run through someone else's face. I asked Deshaun Elliott about that, and he said, yeah, I mean, I'll run through a wall if I have to. That's the kind of energy that this team, this defense, is bringing into Baltimore. By the way, they got started at practice this week on Tuesday with a mosh pit to try to get the energy up, get it going. DeMonte KZ, the safety, was in the center of it. He said, that's what I do. I'm a vibes guy. I said, is that going to work on Saturday? And he was like, oh, yeah, you'll see.
Mosh pit, run through your face, vibes, BYO.
Power Man 5000, what is this, early 2000s?
A little sandstorm?
An ICP?
BYONF, bring your own new face. Ravens defense ranks 22nd in run stop win rate. That's 30%. Brooke, thank you. Gary, what do you got?
All right, here's the thing. You bring your own neck roll. Heads might roll with the Ravens if they lose to this Steelers team. That's why you're bringing Ravens reporter Jamison Hensley joining us now. Lamar Jackson, 2-time MVP, but he has struggled in the playoffs, a 2-4 record. Jamison, what's his mindset going into this game tomorrow?
Yeah, earlier this season, Ravens quarterbacks coach T. Martin showed Lamar Jackson and some other teammates a clip of Patrick Mahomes from last year's AFC Championship game. And Mahomes went into the huddle and shouted to his teammates, composure, composure, composure. And when we're talking about Lamar Jackson's mindset heading into the postseason, it all comes back to poise. Because Jackson even acknowledged this week that he gets too antsy in the past in the playoff games. He said there's times in the postseason where he's had to say, calm yourself down. But what he has learned is that he can balance himself out now heading into the playoffs. And this has been a talking point in the locker room. Teammates have said that it's their job, really, to get the pressure off of Lamar Jackson. Pro Bowl center Tyler Linderbaum said Jackson is at his best when he's playing free, when he's having fun, and it's really their job to get him in that state of mind. Now, it's going to be a challenge because Jackson's going to be without his #1 target in Zay Flowers. The Pro Bowl wide receiver has been ruled out with a right knee injury. Ravens coach John Harbaugh told me that it's going to take a team effort to absorb the loss of Zay Flowers.
How fortunate is it that Derrick Henry is a member of that Ravens backfield, rushed for over 1,900 yards this season? Jackson, 2-4 in the playoffs. Also, 2-4 in his starts against the Steelers. They split the season series earlier this year. Jamison Hensley with a report from Ravens camp. Thanks, Jamison.
It was almost like we put out a bat signal for Sam Acho. As soon as Brooke Pryor said neck roll, Acho just materialized, just repelled from the ceiling, and here he is. For more on this matchup, Lamar has plenty of experience, and Gary just ran through the win-loss. It's not all good experience, and now he goes.
Prepare yourself. Be ready. Prepare yourself. Prepare yourself.
Just moving a bit slow.